and projects. It's also their exploration, their analysis, how they work during this year. And you can see how, you will witness how they became critical thinkers, problem solvers, how they can work together, because most of the project is group work, and how they can ask questions, how they can prove their opinion and their work. So we will start our presentations, and thank you for panelists for participation. Ask questions. Our students expect questions and provide your very important guidance for our students. Why? Because they need to know their strong side and also area for growth. We will start, and the first portfolio defense, Abigail will present. Your welcome.
Hi. Hello. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Hi, my name is Abigail Silva, and this is my portfolio defense presentation. So, I have attended Hollenbeck Middle School for 3 years in the STEM magnet. Each day here, I have been introduced to medicine or engineering, math, and just things like that every day, and I just got a sense of that. Next year for high school, I'm going to be attending MSTMA at Roosevelt and hoping to get an even better education and get into a good college or university. And hope, like, long-term goal for me is just to have a good career that's good, like I'm going to be able to enjoy for years to come and just be proud of who I became and what I'm going to become. So here at Hollenbeck in 7th grade, I was introduced to the pathway outcomes, which include being a critical thinker, community collaborator, effective communicator, and a problem solver. And each of these are components that we all do on a daily basis, whether it's with working with groups or talking to other people or being able to present like I am now. And I feel like some improvements I've made throughout my 3 years of being here is excelling in my work and providing work that's gonna, just having a good work ethic and just presenting work to my teachers that they're gonna be proud of, and I'm gonna get a good score for it. My confidence as well, which is my confidence, which I am now. I'm able to talk in front of a bunch of people, and I've had a lot of opportunities for that this year in 8th grade. And speaking in front of others, I think I've also improved in that, because before I was very shy and closed off and not able to talk to people like this or meet new people and feel comfortable about it. Some weaknesses I do have is just being creative as a student and just thinking outside the box when it comes to projects and presentations and bringing in work that my teachers haven't seen before, which is something I really want to work on as I get into high school. And just also making decisions, because I'm very indecisive about things. For example, my high school, that was a very hard choice. It was between that or Bravo or Garfield, and high schools like that. And just also decisions when it comes to, another example was my classes. wasn't sure what classes I would want to take and what would benefit me as well. So my first artifact is my pool toy. So in this project, I had to meet a series of criterias, which was having more than one mechanism. So as I pull the toy, there has to be an outcome, like, and it's something inside it has to move as well. And we had to use Vex metal parts, which is what the school has provided us. And in our groups, everyone had their own roles, so everyone was in charge of something different. So everyone wasn't just like, everyone had to come together in the end to really just work together. So in this project, we had to learn a lot of things. It just wasn't something that was thrown at us and like, oh, build something. We had to follow a series of steps and understand what we were using and had to build with. So a lot of things were like these like screws, or we call them nuts, shafts, and the wheels and the gears and stuff. We learned about gear ratio, gear reduction, inputs and outputs, which means just if you do something, like there's an outcome with it. Some vocabulary was mechanism, motion. For motion, there's like multiple motions for it. Like the ones that my project provided was rotary, which moves in a circle, which is what my wheels do. And then my project didn't have it, but there's also a motion called reciprocating motion, which it moves up and down. Some other projects included that, but mine just consists of rotary motion. My chain drive, which is this one right here, it has a chain and it's connected to gears. And then the project, our pool toy, had to be based on a colony, one of the 13 colonies, and me and my group chose Maryland. And a bunch of like people, like, so we had an illustrator and a researcher. So the researcher had to learn things about Maryland and like what they used and what they did, and different things like traits about the colony, which was helped with our illustrations. And then the researcher passed on to the illustrator, and the illustrator is the one who drew everything for ours, and is also the one that also came up with ideas. And then there was also the project manager, which was in charge of time, all the like little parts that we had to use. And there was also a mechanical engineer, and I was the mechanical engineer. So I had to, me and everyone in the group had to talk about what we wanted to do, what we had to build, and what we had to fix along the way, because everything wasn't perfect. There was a lot of mistakes that our group made. I think something in the group, like, that's something that also made it easier for us, was having a good, just being able to communicate well. Because there was times where I would miss school because I was sick or something happened, but my team still, like, they still tried their best to help when it came to building, even though they weren't in charge of that. Like, I would come the next day and they'd be like, oh, you know, we fixed this, and I'd be like, okay, you know, and it made our project better. And also, like, there was times where certain groups or us, we didn't have enough parts. So like people from other groups had to come to us like, oh, can we borrow this part? Like, you know, everyone was just working together. And there was times when something like would get like stuck. So we had to like all figure out like, oh, what should we do? And just talk about it. And then either we fix it, or if it just wasn't fixable, we could make a new idea, a new prototype for our mechanism. So I think all around there was just a lot of active listening between our group, and that really helped us. So our team helped a lot. And then during our project, we had to follow a process, which is called the engineering design process. So we had to follow a series of steps, which includes like figuring out what our problem is, what criteria we have to meet along the way during this project. We have to generate ideas, which was brainstorming, just building and drawing and sketching a bunch of new models. And then select a solution. So then on that part, we had to choose what prototype, what drawing, we wanted to test out and then go along with it and start building it. And then the fifth one was evaluating, so figuring out what, like, if everything went well, if everything was good, and if there was problems, then we could go back and see what we did while we were building it. And then the sixth and the final, which was presenting the solution, which was what we did on it was exhibition night. So we had a bunch of teachers came and parents. We presented what we did, and like there's times where you have to go back on the process and like think, okay, where did we go wrong, and then go forward or go back. Like it's a whole cycle that you have to follow when it comes to engineering and robotics. So my reflection, which is my outcomes. So I was an effective communicator when it came to speaking to my group and just like talking to them and figuring out what was going wrong, listening to the problems as well, just being an active listener. I think that also comes into play a lot, especially in the future and in high school. A community collaborator, so I was just happy that everyone was able to come together and just really help each other out and just support each other in any way that we could. And a problem solver was fixing our mistakes and just coming up with new ideas and brainstorming and just no one giving up and just continue going. Critical thinker, which was you have to be smart about what you're designing. It just can't be something that you're drawing and then like, oh, just draw, like just build it. But you know, like there has to be certain things we have to think about in our design. So yeah. Okay, so my second artifact, I chose a history project. It was a group presentation that we had to do in front of the class. So in this project, everyone in the class had to think about something new. So ours was, we had to learn about a man named Thomas Paine, and he created a pamphlet called The Common Sense during he wanted people to really like wake up and say, you know what, we want independence from Britain, and just create the rebellion against Britain. And he had a lot to do with that in his pamphlet. So everyone in the group and our table, we were all in charge of a different time or different point of view in the project. So I was in charge of the colonist point of view and how their point of view changed over time when his pamphlet came along. And so here we had to find like primary sources that were reliable, which was also, we had a hard time doing that because a lot of the information we were finding was not reliable, and we wanted reliable information. And then we had to analyze what was said in the pamphlet, and then we had to summarize everything. And here are my reflections. So in the thing, like there was times where we were having problems with how we wanted to organize, like how we wanted to make the format and make it more organized and easy for people to read in the class, and also for them to take in information and actually learn something and not just hear us speak and like, oh, like, you know, it doesn't matter what they just said. And for one of the outcomes that we all showed was being an effective communicator. So we were all able to ask questions to the teacher, as she was our teacher, Ms. Broadbent, our history teacher. She was very helpful when it came to answering our questions and asking for help. And also everyone in the team was also able to communicate because everyone in the group wasn't doing what they were supposed to. So like we had problems with them and like we had to help them. A community collaborator, so we were all giving each other support along the way and like helping them and giving new ideas. Or there was times where our format was too, I guess, crowded, you can say, so we were all like helping each other. And also, once again, being active listeners, that also helps a lot when it comes to our group projects. Critical thinker, like we just had to be smart about what sources we wanted to use, because there was times where they would throw information and we would ask the teacher like, oh, miss, does this make sense? And she's like, no, that like never happened. So we'd be like, oh, like, you know, we just have a hard time. And creating an organized format, like I would say mine is still a little too crowded, but there was a lot of information, so I just couldn't make it any less. And problem solver is being able to have information that supports what we're talking about. Just having information that makes sense and helps us and helps the class as well. So I think this is all something we were able to do as a group and not alone. So these are some certificates I earned in robotics. It's a website. It's called Everfi. And the orange one, the first certificate, it's a it's a series of tests and just activities that we had to do that gave us a touch of different career paths that we wanted to do. So really like help us like figure out like different how can you say it, jobs that we wanted to do and career paths. Like for me, for example, it really helped me a lot. This class helped me a lot because for a long time I wanted to become a doctor, an obstetrician, and then I was introduced to engineering and a bunch of other careers. So now I'm just like knowing that I know that there's more options out there than just sticking to one. So like now I'm also considering becoming an engineer because I really liked the idea of building things in the freedom. And the second one, which is Future Smart, so that one was really just about learning about money and just budgeting it and being smart with it. Like that one, it explained to us how to be smart with your money when you're going into college, into high school, and saving up your money, signing up for scholarships, and just how to save your money too, because I think it also helped me because it explained, there was one activity where it explained a want versus a need, and I think that's something a lot of us have trouble with. Like, you don't need it, but you want it, and you spend money on it. I mean, I have trouble with it. My dad tells me all the time, he's like, just save your money, just put it aside, forget about it. But I'm like, no, but, I want this. And he's like, so my money, it doesn't last. And I want to learn how to just be smart about it, especially like when I go to college, because that's going to be something I'm going to have to save a lot, because I might have to be smart about where I want to eat, what I want to eat, what I want to buy, what I want to do with it, It's just, it's a lot that I learned, so, yeah. So my conclusion, I believe I'm high school ready because I'm able to communicate with everyone. When it comes to being in sports, I play sports, so that also, it's a lot that you have to do collaborating with others. That also comes into play when I'm in high school, because I want to continue doing sports and hopefully get scholarships from that. And in that, you just have to be open with people and just being able to feel comfortable around everyone in your team and being able to support each other and just help each other. And also being able to prioritize things that matter in my life, which is school, my money, my sports, just what I want to do in the future. I think that's a lot of kids also have trouble with that because they feel that they have to prioritize something else over school, but I believe school should always come first, because I think like that's where a lot of kids make a mistake, where they're like, oh, school's always going to be there, but it really isn't. It's just up to you to put the effort in. And allowing myself to improve from my mistakes and fix them. And I think that's something 8th grade has also taught me a lot, being able to like go in and just have to be comfortable with me being wrong sometimes, because I feel like kids can be very like stubborn and like, oh, I'm not wrong, they're wrong, and I think that's also something that is important when I'm an adult, just being able to understand why I'm wrong and go along with it and fix it. And being able to know what my weaknesses are, because in the beginning, in my introduction, my thesis, I stated what my weaknesses are, and I want to be able to state them and improve them and make them into where I grew, And I think that's something that, like, for a long time I was like, oh, I have no weaknesses, like I'm perfectly fine, but I'm like, no. So once I was doing my portfolio, I was like, oh, you know, these are things I really need to work on before I go on to high school and leave and graduate. Things that have benefited me was my support system, whether it came from my parents, my friends, my teachers. My parents were always there to support me when it came to like doing things like this. Like I told them like, oh, I'm gonna present, and they're like, oh, you know, good job, we're proud of you. And that makes me feel good because I'm like, oh, you know, I'm doing something. And also from my friends, because there was times where I would just be really stressed out, and my friends were always there to help me feel better. And like you know, I have my best friend, and she tells me sometimes, she's like, oh, you know, we can go out this weekend. And I feel better because I'm like, okay, like I don't have to deal with school for at least one day. You know, like go out and have fun. And then from my teachers as well, they were always there. Like Miss Natalia, she was always there when it came to our projects and like giving us ideas on how to improve it as well. They're always there when you need them. And then also for me, having the drive to want to become someone, want to be more, not just settle for like, you know, less. And I think my drive for success has always been there, especially since elementary school, because that's how I've been taught. Like in school, like when I was younger, my parents are like, the only thing I ask you to do is do well in school. Like that's it. I don't need anything else. You know, we'll take care of everything else. I just want you to do well in school. And since then, like I've always kept my grades up. I've always been like scared to have bad grades because I'm like, oh, you know, this is the only thing my parents expect from me, and I'm not able to do it. And so that's where I just really want to do better. And also in the future, I just want to be proud of myself, to know where I am and think like, wow, I actually became someone. I'm proud of who I am. Like it took all that work, but it's going to be worth it in the long run. And also opportunities. Like there was times where I had to present in front of teachers, like now, or also on exhibition night, I had to present to a bunch of parents. And that was really nerve-wracking because I was in the auditorium. It was on news. I had to be on the news that day. And they never even told us. And I was like, and it was in Spanish too. My Spanish is like, I mean, it's there, but it's not perfect. So I stuttered. So that was, I need to work on my Spanish. And, but that, I got home and I was so happy. I was like, oh, Mom, I went on the news. And she's like, let me see. And I'm like, no, my Spanish is, I stuttered so much. But it's just a lot of opportunities that I know my confidence will only get better in high school and with my teachers, and just have a more comfortable environment, because I think that's what Hollenbeck has provided me with, an environment where I feel like I can make mistakes and you're okay. You know, you have your teachers there, you have your parents there. But yeah, thank you for listening. This is my portfolio defense. Any questions?
About your two artifacts. So for each of them, how might those artifacts of what you learned in them connect to a future project or something you might do in the future?
I would say my pool toy, the one that involved in robotics, was like, let's say I do go into the engineering world, I think it's gonna give me a sense of what might happen when I want to build something, like the process that I have to go through, the people I have to talk to, the things I have to do, the questions I have to ask. I think that's where it's going to come into play. My history presentation, it helps me just understand and collaborating, like the importance of collaborating with others. I think that's also going to help me in any job I go into. It's going to be there. I'm going to have to talk to people. I can't go years without talking to coworkers and people like that. So.
What did you find most challenging working with the team as far as building your pool?
Something challenging was maybe distractions, like just things around you. Like it wasn't quiet. Like you had people talking about one thing, people laughing at another. your team members wanting to laugh too, and you're like, no, like we have to stay focused. I mean, it's gonna happen, but that was something challenging, and also just the confusion. But like my teachers were there to help me, so that was something that was challenging.
It's great presentation. Thank you, Abigail, for
Thank you, ma'am.
presenting.
For explaining your story, we discussed your presentation, it's your story, and it's real story, you can see this. Thank you, and we will move forward, we will.
Thank you.
Thank you.